Hey everybody, this is Carlos Velez from Lacerda Bio in New York, bringing you a short video on digital partnering presentations. Now, the typical slide that we have seen, and I'm sure many of you have slides that look something like this. There'll be a title, there'll be a logo, there'll be lots of data with no explanation whatsoever. Now, what's wrong with this? Really, the problem with this is that you're asking your audience to focus on one particular thing when in fact you're throwing a lot of things at them simultaneously. So let's suppose for a moment that you want your audience to focus on one particular piece of information, one particular set of data, one particular chart. You may be pointing to it, you may be referring to it, you may be talking about it, and then you've moved on to the next thing. So what happens then? Well, what could happen is that while you're talking about the second piece of data, they'll be thinking about something else. They might be thinking about that graph that you have sitting there in the other corner. It might look interesting. It might look cool. They might be looking at that while you're talking about something else. They might be looking at your logo. They might be looking at your colors. They might be looking at other things on your slide. And so while you're talking about one thing, you're simultaneously distracting them and providing them other things to look at, other things to think about. So what do we recommend? We recommend the LIME. The LIME is an acronym for less information, more explanation. So what does that mean, practically speaking? Practically speaking, it means one data set or one graph or one chart per slide. There may be instances where you can put two, but those are exceptions. It's one data set, 1 to 2 bullet points describing that data, and roughly 3 times your normal font size. Now, why are we doing this? Because what you want to do in a digital partnering session, when you may only have 15 minutes, you may have difficulty with the technology and so forth, you really don't have a lot of time. So what you want to do is you want to focus their attention where you want it focused. So if you want to talk about this particular information, these particular data, just have that on the slide. So one data set, one chart, 2 bullet points at the most, maybe 3, but 2 at the most. The reason why you want to have only 2 is for 2 reasons. One, it provides you with a script. So if you feel a little bit nervous, you can essentially read what you have there. And if it's a nice big font size, it'll be easier to read. But the other reason is by having fewer words there, this will be helpful for audiences where English may not be their primary language. So in some cases, some folks may not be able to necessarily understand what you're saying word for word, but they may have enough mastery of the English language that they'll be able to read what you have on the slide and therefore understand what you're trying to say. So having fewer words, nice big font will make it easier for your audience. In terms of font size, somewhere in the 40 to 45 seems to work well. I think font 60 may be a little bit too big, but there may be reasons why you may want to go that large. Something like font 16 is just totally useless. It's just way too small. Now, some of you are asking, but wait a minute, I have a lot of data to present. What do I do? The reality is you don't have a lot of data to present. Now, why am I saying that? Well, first, ask yourself this question. What is my objective? What am I trying to do? I'm sure some of you are saying, well, my objective is to secure a deal, secure a license agreement, for example. No, that's not really your objective at this point in the process. Your objective is to get to the next meeting, is to get to the next phone call, the next discussion, the next conference call, and that's it. Because when you think about it, the licensing process is complex. There's the initial meeting, there's a follow-up meeting, you have to execute CDAs, etc., etc., etc. So it's a process that it's lengthy, it's complex, but it's also competitive. You're competing against other companies who want to secure that particular license agreement with that particular company. So what you want to do at the early stage of the process is to minimize distractions and maximize understanding in the short 10, 15, 20 minutes that you have to present. You could always follow up with details and lengthier discussions during future meetings. And indeed, when you follow up after a digital partnering session, you will send out an email that says, "It was a pleasure e-meeting you on Thursday. Attached, please find a more detailed presentation describing our compound to treat disease ABC. So the presentation that you prepare, that you will deliver digitally, will not be the presentation that you email. You're going to email something that's going to be more detailed, with a lot more text, a lot more explanation. We'll talk about some of those types of presentations in another video. But for now, thank you very much for listening, and take care.